Little Johnny and another boy were lying next to each other in a hospital. The boy asked Little Johnny,
"What are you in here for?"
Little Johnny replied,
"I'm in here to get my tonsils out, and I'm a little nervous."
"Tonsils? A piece of cake,"
said the boy.
"They put you to sleep, and when you wake up, they give you lots of Jell-O and ice cream."
"So what are you in here for?"
asked Little Johnny. The boy replied,
"Well, I'm here for a circumcision."
Little Johnny screamed,
No, don't go there! I had that done when I was born, and I couldn't walk for a year!
A woman was sure that her husband was cheating on her by having an affair with the maid, so she laid down a trap. One evening, she sent the maid home for the weekend and didn't tell her husband. That night, when they went to bed, the husband gave the same old story.
"Excuse me, my dear, my stomach aches."
He then went into the bathroom. The wife promptly ran down the hall, got into the maid's bed, and switched the lights off. Soon, she heard footsteps, then felt him get into bed with her. After some passionate lovemaking, she said suddenly,
"I bet you didn't expect to find me in this bed, did you?"
Then she switched the lights on.
"No, ma'am,"
said the gardener. A businessman is driving through a small town on his way to an important presentation. He suddenly realizes he needs a haircut and doesn't have much extra time. He remembers there's a little barber shop on the next corner, so he stops, and a short while later he's back on his way. A few weeks later, the man returns to the little barber shop.
"Hello again, sir,"
greets the barber.
"What can I do for you today?"
"Oh, I'd like another haircut,"
replies the man.
"But I'm awfully particular. Can I make a few requests this time?"
"Of course,"
replies the barber.
"Anything you want. Please have a seat."
The businessman sits down.
"So, what would you like this time?"
asks the barber.
"Well, for starters, I want you to cut my right sideburn an inch shorter than my left,"
says the man.
"Cut the hair on the nape of my neck at a 5-degree angle instead of straight across,"
he continues.
"I'd also like my hair parted on the left, but unevenly. Oh, and please cut exactly 2 little divots out of the back of my head. When you use the clippers, I want the 2 sides slightly different lengths. Blend the sides in, but don't blend in the back. Oh, and when you put the hair gel in, comb the front straight forward and the hair on the top of my head to the rear."
The barber is taken aback by all these odd requests.
"Sir, I can't do all that,"
the barber insists.
"Why not?"
asks the businessman.
"That's what you did last time."
Late one night, a man is speeding down an empty road. A cop sees him go flying past, so he chases him and pulls him over. The cop goes up to the car, and when the man rolls down the window, he asks,
"Are you aware of how fast you were going, sir?"
The man replies,
"Yes, I am. I'm trying to escape a robbery I got involved in."
The cop looks at him disbelievingly and asks him,
"Were you the one being robbed, sir?"
The man casually replies,
"Oh no, I was the one who committed the robbery. I was escaping."
The cop is shocked and surprised that the man has admitted to this so freely. He says,
"So you're telling me you were speeding and committed a robbery?"
"Oh yes,"
replies the man calmly.
"I have all the loot in the back."
The cop is now starting to get angry and says,
"Sir, I'm afraid you have to come with me,"
as he reaches into the window to take the car keys out of the ignition. The man shouts,
"Don't do that! I'm afraid that you'll find the gun in my glove compartment."
At this, the cop pulls his hand out of the window and says,
"Wait here,"
as he returns to his car and calls for backup. Soon there are cars, cops, and helicopters everywhere. The man is quickly dragged out of his car, handcuffed, and taken towards a cop car. However, just before he is put in the car and taken away, a cop walks up to him and says,
"Sir, this officer tells us that you had committed a robbery, had stolen loot in the trunk of your car, and had a loaded gun in your glove compartment. However, we didn't find any of these things in your car."
The man replies,
"Yeah?"
I bet that liar said I was speeding, too.
Two vampire bats wake up in the middle of the night, thirsty for blood. One bat says,
Hey, let's fly out of the cave and get some blood.
We're new here,
says the second bat.
It's dark out and we don't know where to look. We'd better wait until the other bats can go with us.
The first bat replies,
Who needs them? I can find some blood on my own.
He then flies out of the cave. Later, when he returns, he is covered in blood. The second bat asks excitedly,
Wow, where did you get all that blood?
The first bat leads the second bat to the mouth of the cave. Pointing out into the night, he asks,
See that big tree over there?
Yes?
answers the other bat.
Well,
Says the first bat.
I didn't.
A woman is angry because her husband is late coming home again. So she writes him a note saying,
I've had enough. I've left you. Don't bother coming after me.
Then she hides under the bed waiting to see his reaction. After a short while, the husband comes home. She can hear him in the kitchen before he comes into the bedroom. Then she sees him walk towards the dresser and pick up the note. After a few minutes, he writes something on it before picking up the phone and calling someone. She's finally gone. Yeah, I know, about time. I'm coming to see you. Put on that sexy lingerie that I bought you. I love you too. Can't wait to see you. He hangs up, grabs his keys, and leaves. The wife hears the car drive off as she comes out from under the bed. Seething with rage and tears in her eyes, she grabs the note from the dresser to see what he wrote. I can see your feet. We're out of bread. Be back in 5 minutes. A husband and wife are playing golf one weekend. They're on the 9th green when the wife suddenly collapses.
Help me, dear.
She pleads to her husband. The husband calls 911 on his cell phone, talks for a few minutes, then he picks up his putter and lines up his putt. His wife uses all her remaining strength to raise her head off the green and stares at him as she gasps,
I'm dying here and you're putting?
Don't worry, dear,
says the husband calmly.
They found a doctor on the second hole and he's coming to help you.
Well, how long will it take for him to get here?
The wife asks feebly.
Oh, no time at all,
Replies her husband.
Everybody's already agreed to let him play through.
Andrew is struggling through a bus station with 2 huge and obviously heavy suitcases. When a stranger walks up to him and asks, Have you got the time? Andrew sighs, puts down the suitcases, and glances at his wrist. It's 5:45, he says. Hey, that's a pretty fancy watch, exclaims the stranger. Andrew brightens up a little bit. Yeah, it's not bad. Check this out. He shows him a time zone display, not just for every time zone in the world, but for the 50 largest cities in the world. He hits a few buttons, and from somewhere on the watch, a voice says,
The time is 11 to 6.
in a very West Texas accent. A few more buttons, and the same voice says something in Japanese. Andrew continues, I've put in regional accents for each city. The display is unbelievably high quality, and the voice is simply astounding. The stranger is dumbstruck with admiration. That's not all, says Andrew. He pushes a few more buttons, and a tiny but very high-resolution map of New York City appears on the display. The flashing dot shows our location by satellite positioning, explains Andrew. View, recede 10, he says, and the display changes to show eastern New York State. The stranger eagerly says, I'll give you $1,000 for it. Oh no, I've already spent more than... I'll give you $5,000 for it. But it's just not... I'll give you $15,000 for it. And the stranger pulls out a checkbook. Andrew stops to think. He's only put about $8,500 into materials and development. And with 15 grand, he can make another one and have it ready for merchandising in only 6 months. The stranger frantically finishes writing the check and waves it in front of him. Here it is, 15 grand, take it or leave it. Andrew abruptly makes his decision. Okay, he says and peels off the watch. They make the exchange and the stranger starts happily away.
Hey, wait a minute.
Andrew points to the 2 huge suitcases he'd been trying to wrestle through the bus station.
Don't forget your batteries.
A honeymoon couple were staying at the Watergate Hotel in Washington. The bride was concerned.
What if the place is still bugged?
The groom responded, "Don't worry, honey, I'll look for a bug." He looked behind the drapes, behind the pictures, under the rug. Finally, he said, "Got it!" Under the rug was a disc with 4 screws. He got out his Swiss Army knife, unscrewed the screws, then threw the screws and the disc out the window. The next morning, the hotel manager came upstairs and asked the newlyweds,
How was your room? How was the service? How was your stay at the Watergate?
"Why are you asking me all of these questions?" asked the groom. The hotel manager replied,
Well, the guests staying in the room under you complained that their chandelier fell on them last night.
A man rents a room and pays extra on the condition that the landlady prepare his work lunch every day. So, on the first day, she packs him a sandwich on normal sandwich bread using the prior night's leftover meatloaf, adding in some fruit and a bottle of soda. When he comes home, he politely tells her that it wasn't quite enough food for him. The next day, she makes 2 sandwiches, turkey this time, and adds a container of potato salad, some crackers and peanut butter, and a slice of cake. That night, he told her most apologetically that while the food was delicious, he found himself still hungry and could she possibly put in a little more the next day. The next day, she uses long slices of sourdough bread to construct a pair of huge sandwiches. She includes crackers and peanut butter, chips and dip, veggies and ranch dressing, and a whole 2-liter of soda. That night, he smiles very kindly and tells her it was almost enough food. The following day, throwing caution to the wind and idly wondering if she's feeding his entire workplace, she cuts a loaf of bread in half and stuffs it with pounds of meat and cheese, an entire head of lettuce, tomatoes, onions, other vegetables, and sauces, everything. That night, he gives her a dry look and says, "So, I see we're back down to 1 sandwich."